Welcome to the next episode of She Runs a Business podcast. Today, I have an honor and pleasure to have amazing Cathrine B.Roy on my show. Cathrine is an international business and personal growth coach, best-selling author, podcaster, keynote speaker with the mission to help you do what you love, empowered by your own freedom. Cathrine is the founder of the LHM Academy, and her latest book, Live from Your Heart to Mind, is an international bestseller. Cathrine, thank you so much for being on my show. It's my honor and pleasure to have you here.
Well, first of all, Nina, thank you so much for having me. It's truly my pleasure. And thanks to everyone who is listening and watching to this.
Thank you so much for being guest on our show. It's my honor and pleasure to have you as a guest here. You have an amazing book. It's just a brilliant book. I love it so much. Live from your heart and mind. And I want to talk about that book because it's really beautiful and powerful book, giving people like thought process how to live in alignment with their heart and knocking out all excuses your mind could have to stop you. And I really love it. But before we dive into your amazing book, I really want to know the story. What inspired you to write this brilliant book?
Honestly, in 2008, I was working as a programmer. And at one moment, I felt such a strong pain in my chest. Um, I ended up being 6 months on different medical treatments and tests, and unfortunately doctors back then told me that in that condition, because they found out I had a Coxsackie virus in my body for a long time, I might actually live just a year and a half, because my heart was stopping 10,000. My husband actually told me a few days ago that I forgot it was almost 20,000 times a day. And it was very risky for me. I found myself in my living room watching at the ceiling, crying, didn't know what to do. I had great doctors, but I felt very hopeless and lost. As a scientific person, as I was, so I was a programmer. I spent 4 years in a scientific center doing media manipulation researches and linguistical researches. I knew nothing about any kind of healing or alternative medicine or anything like that. But my mom always strongly believed in God, source, or the universe, however we wish to call that. So she took me to monastery in Montenegro, to the Ostrog monastery. And I remember, Nina, that day like it was yesterday, um, when we were about to enter the room for prayers. The monk stepped out and said that everyone should stay outside and that only I need to go inside. Um, I was a girl. I was afraid. I didn't know why. And you couldn't see on my outside that I was ill, right? But I did that. He asked me to be on my knees, and he put a palm on my head. And he said the words which completely changed my life. Nothing's going bad to happen. This world needs love, and your love. And I remember being on my knees and crying. For me, that was like an eternity. I went back home. I did the medical tests again, and I was perfectly fine. So not even my cardiologist believed that. She kept me for 10 years after that, checking my heart, my cardiovascular system, and everything. But I knew something happened there. And that was the moment when I realized there is something greater than us. There is something which we as humans living in 3D can't understand, and that I need to learn, obviously. So I went to Human Universal Academy of Energy, learning energy healing, first in person, then on distance. Helped myself many times after that, helped my family, and started practicing meditation every day. Through these meditations, I actually started receiving messages which then became my book. Back then, I didn't understand any of it, so I needed to draw and create algorithms because my mind was working that way. But that was the moment when Live From Your Heart and Mind was born and then published a lot of years later.
Wow, this is such a beautiful story. And I love how you share your experience in more details in your book and share that like it was challenging for you for so many other reasons that hopefully readers are going to find out in your book because it's such a brilliant book. Um, I really want to talk about self-development books because most of them fail. And when people read them, most of them really don't change anything in their lives. And why this book is different than any other self development books out there.
This book is more like a personal guide. So I believe there is no unique solution for everyone. Actually, we're all different and we're all unique and magnificent in our own ways. So I try to create something which will help us establish that beautiful connection between our hearts and our minds. And when I say heart, I mean deeper, soul. Um, I'm a Mensa member. Mensa tested my IQ, which was above 156. So in my native language, they don't have higher tests. But that didn't help me in my life, right? I still was unsecured. I was unhappy. I didn't do what I love until I realized that the main power is actually inside of me. And then I need to find a way to establish that deep connection with my soul, first of all, and then transform my life. So, what I believe is off with the self help books is that they are focused on mental transformation and not so much on a soul transformation. Because, first of all, we're souls having human experience, not vice versa. I deeply believe that. So if we try to resolve things from a 3D perspective, like from the mental level, and I went on the personal growth programs which are trying that also, I firmly say it is not going to work. Because what I'm trying to give away with the LHM system is that we have these two important sides, emotional and intellectual, and we need to increase the levels of capacity for both of these sides and then be the best version of myself or of ourselves, while usually the focus is on one or another. So I think the connection between heart and mind is missing, and this is actually where I wanted to step in.
Yeah. I would love to add something to the reasons why this book is unique because I truly believe it is a very powerful book because it shows people how to implement it in their real life. And it really guides them step by step. You have an amazing thought process that I really love it. She calls that algorithm, but it's really amazing, and everybody can really understand that because what you're teaching your mind is how to get from A to B, how to achieve your goals. And very often, what's happening that mind has so many excuses and objections. And what I love about your method is the process you teach people how to knock out all excuses and all objections so you can achieve your goals faster and like with more ease and I will say this like with ease and it's almost like a effortless because when you train your mind immediately to see the result, we are more excited about the outcome than work. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like you're already excited about that. That's something I would love to say about this book because I really, really love it so much.
Thank you, Nina.
In your book, you talk about LHM formula for finding happiness, which I found fascinating. Can you explain what the LHM formula is and how it works?
Well, actually, LHM formulas are a part of this system called LHM system, and every aspect of our life has its own formula. But the formula is a form of advice, right? But as I mentioned, not everything will apply to everyone. So the formula is a nice step leading to the algorithm, which you just mentioned, which is actually a personal guide thought process. Everyone answers to these questions differently and get a different result. So, for example, you mentioned the happiness formula. I believe that we are the creators of our own happiness, right? And as Einstein said, it really depends upon us. So, when we embrace that feeling and we practically give ourselves permission to feel not only happiness but joy, like that true life joy, we are becoming the creators of our own lives. So every single step in the formula, each of these formulas, is actually how I came to practice all of this, how I got the results, and how I would like people to try. But there is a but. Uh, Not everyone will find themselves in alignment with my suggestions. This is why the algorithms are created. So they have an opportunity to create their own formulas. They have the opportunity to create their own path. They have the opportunity to resolve their own questions. The real problems, which I was trying to solve with LHM system were actually much deeper rooted. And everything has to do with the fact that, for example, results on the PISA tests are very low in the whole world, except for Asian countries and few of the Scandinavian countries. PISA tests are showing the level of functional learning, how capable we are for what we learn in our educational system to implement in the real life. So if the results are low, that means something is off. So one side of the system is actually triggering 2% of our brain, which we actually don't use, and we don't know we have that capacity, and practically creating new neural cells and connections to be on the highest level. And from the other side, what was always giving me deep pain was bullying in schools, domestic violence, very high level of anxiety and depression, and very low level of happiness at work. So the formulas are there to help us connect with ourselves deeper, find peace in ourselves as the result, so we don't have a need for conflict. When a person is peaceful, they don't have a need for conflict. And practically, that peacefulness will create a ripple effect. As we mentioned when we were recording your interview, uh, we are creating a ripple effect to make this world a more beautiful place. So, formulas will help us to increase emotional capacity, and IQ training will help us increase mental capacity, and then we can achieve results. So everything that I have achieved was actually by implementing the LHM system.
I really, really love it. And you share in your book your personal experience and how to apply. You give people the real world, real life examples how to do that. And there's something else that you do so well in your book is explaining people how to set the right goals. And I think that's so crucial to talk about because when I talk to my healers, very often when I ask them what they want, most of them don't even know what they want and what they want to achieve. Many of them say, I'm in alignment, whatever universe brings to me. But in order for universe to deliver what you want, it needs to know what you really want. And this is the formula that I love so much that you talk about in your book. It's called Smart Goal Setting Framework. Can you please explain to our listeners and how to implement that?
Imagine if we are now in the dark, completely in the dark, and then we have an arrow and we need to hit the target. Like, let's try again that. and let's try again that, and let's try again that. Like, where is the target? Yes, we need to be in alignment, but first we need to tell the universe what is actually that we need, what is actually that we want. Smart technique is actually a very well known technique, but I would say it is not enough, and I will challenge the whole community to understand why it's not enough. So, SMART is when we set a goal with a specific timeline, with accurate measuring, in a first stance, and we're very, very precise. Like on the 1st January 225, I have, I don't know, 65 kilograms, right? So we can measure that, we know what is the deadline and all of that. I believe honestly, Nina, that means nothing. Like, seriously, it means nothing. Because uh, we lack, again, the connection with ourselves. Whose goal is that? Am I achieving my own goal or am I achieving someone else's goal? Is it really for me and for my best self? Or is it opposed upon me from my family members, from work colleagues? So I would add so called fly, feel, you, and live. So we need to feel that is completely in alignment with who we truly are, and we need to live exactly like it has already happened, right? We need to be the best version of ourselves. So first, we need to know exactly what we need to hit. And 98% of people have 2% of wealth, and 2% of people have 98% of wealth in the world. That is statistical data. What is separating successful from unsuccessful people is only the fact that successful people know exactly what they want to achieve and they know exactly where they are going. So, setting the very precise goal, but including the feelings, not emotions as a processed feelings through our mind, but pure feelings. And that is what I say when love comes in. We need to love what we do. We need to love what we have to achieve because there are going to be setbacks. As an entrepreneur, I know that very well. There's going to be ups and downs, but I really love what I do. I really love helping people, and there is nothing that can stand on my way. So let's add fly to smart and practically try to first define and then feel that and go for it.
I really love it how you explain it, and that's also the missing part, because very often, like we think that we know what we want, but we actually don't know what we want, and we accept other people's agenda on about our life as our own agenda, and very often people wake up one day and says, you know, I don't like this life. And that's why it's really so important that you really also feel it. Is this the right goal for you? And you have an amazing exercise in the book to guide people to really find out, is this really the goal I want to achieve? And it's beautiful. And what I also love about your book is you explain very well in the thought process that we all have difficult situations in our life. We all have our ups and downs, and we have a lot of challenges that we need to overcome. And very often, many people actually stay stuck and don't want to change, and they're blaming others or blaming circumstances or blaming country of living and all kind of things. And you have one very powerful question that you ask your audience in your book, because people always complain about that problem and they want to change and they feel like stuck. And there's an amazing question you ask: what would this problem mean to people 200 years from now? And it was such an amazing and thought-provoking question, because it would mean nothing to 99.9999% of our questions. It would really mean nothing. All the problems that we believe that we have would mean nothing in 200 years. You know, and I really really love it. I also want to share with audience something that happened during the book writing. The universe, the God, however you want to call it, tested your methods. You went through very, very challenging period of your life. Your parents went through divorce. Went through IVF journey, and that was very challenging for you. How did you stay optimistic, and how this method really helped you change the perspective on the problem you have?
At that moment, Nina, I really felt like now it's everything being tested. And when I embraced that, I said, I know this works. And now I have unfortunate but opportunity to practically apply what I'm teaching people, right? It was a very, very challenging period. I always wanted to be a mom. I always wished something like that because my childhood was very challenging. And I faced a diagnosis that I actually can't. But I already had the experience in the monastery, which I shared. And I just said, yeah, well, you made a mistake once. I'm going to try that again. So I never gave up. I always believed that everything happens with a reason. I always believed that what we put out in the universe will actually come back. And I always believed that if I committed my life to be a light worker, and I did, there will be a blessing. We went to monastery again, this time to in Greece, just for me to find peace. This wasn't now about the healing, it was about finding peace within myself because the struggles were so hard with my parents and IVF and all of that I have shared. But when I was preparing myself for the third attempt, because first two times were unsuccessful, I actually discovered that I was pregnant naturally, and now our son Alexander is 8 years old, and he practically became a part of my why, and why all of this became so important for me to show not only to, I don't know who, myself, the universe, that it is going to happen, everything that we desire, everything that we want to create in this world, but to him to see that he can be whoever he wants to be and he can create whatever he wants to create. So my life drastically changed. It shifted in all areas. Actually, I believe my parents are much better now when they are divorced also. So yes, it brought so many joy into my life, and I did exactly what I was teaching here, setting new goals, which were now focused on my health, having a new perspective on life, embracing that moment and trying to be the best version of myself with a core belief that it's just a matter of time and not if will happen or not.
Thank you so much for sharing this inspiring story. I know you go into more details in the book, and it's really the story worth reading. And everybody who has a chance to grab this book should do this because it's a really an amazing book that I would definitely recommend to everyone, especially those who want to be leaders, those who are executives. You will definitely need this book. It's going to transform your life, I promise you. And before you published this book, you faced a lot of rejections. And obviously, you are on your soul path. This is your soul purpose. Otherwise, you would not push through all these objections and keep pushing forward and keep doing what you're doing with smile if this was not the life purpose. You would definitely not do this, but this was something that you breathe, you live it. This is your path. And I want to share your story because it's really an inspiring story of resilience and really a beautiful motivational story for everybody who faces a lot of judgments, a lot of rejections from people around them. But they still have a dream to pursue, and they believe inside of them there's something that they need to do. There's a burning desire inside of them to serve the world. but they're right now they're stuck and they're like whatever they do, they face rejection or judgment. Can you tell your story to inspire our audience to pursue their dreams?
Yes, Nina. Now it's a kind of a funny story for me, but it was very very challenging also. I was rejected 246 times from a different American and UK publishers until one small publishing house in Tennessee said yes.
Just a second for our audience. 247 times.
246, 247th was yes.
Wow, that's a lot rejection. Like I want people to register this 246 rejections and still keep pushing, still keep believing in yourself. Sorry, keep sharing your story.
Yes, that's true. But imagine if we decide that someone else's no is our truth. It's not going to work. If I define my success by someone else saying me no or yes, then if they say yes, then I'm successful. No, it can't depend upon other people, right? And this is something which I learned from my mentor actually. First, I wrote a blog in my native language and I had no traction. I had a comment from my former boss who said, I don't understand anything you're saying here. So I was like, okay, let's try to translate that in English. And I got a lot of traction back then. And then I started writing the book. But again, English is not my native language, right? And I didn't care about this. Downloads were in English, I was writing it down. And at one moment, I met one man online and I noticed his English was perfect. And I asked him if he would like to read something that I've written. And he accepted that. We never knew each other before. Actually, it ended up he was retired, but he was a journalist in LA and he actually published 16 books on his own, right? Uh, I asked him if he could help me, and he said that editing process for not native speakers would be something around $4,000. At that time, I was a programmer, six figures in debt, and it was absolutely impossible for me to invest $4,000. And I was very honest, I told him that. And he said, girl, this has to go out. There is something in this book, and I believe that it just has to go out. And we made a deal. He will edit every chapter, and I am obligated not to make the mistakes in the next one, what he will taught me in the previous chapter. So the process was 6 months writing this and him editing this. And then we started searching for publishers. And it really did hurt. For me back then, it was very painful. But he was always there next to me saying, when one door's closed, another one opens. Send another one. When one door's closed, another one opens. And this is how the process lasted. So it wasn't simple. It took us 2 years, but I really wanted to be a published author. And obviously, it was just a question of, again, when and not how and who is going to accept it.
This is a beautiful story of making impossible possible and believing in yourself. That's why I really love your story. I love your book. And I can definitely recommend everybody to read this book. This book was a bestseller book and definitely worth reading every single chapter. It's going to help you with your thought process, especially if you're very rational in making decisions. This is an amazing book for you. And thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing your amazing experience and inspiring our audience. I want to ask you a few more questions. And one of these questions is, what legacy do you want to leave with your work?
I will quote Maya Angelou on this because when she said this to Oprah, I found my heart. resonating 100%. My legacy is going to be every heart I touch along the way of my own creative process.
Thank you so much. And one more question. When you wrote this book, could you ever imagine the impact it would have not only on your life, but also on the lives of others?
No, no, I just needed to write it down. I needed to get it on paper, everything that was going on in my mind. I had no idea what is going to happen. I had no idea it's going to be published in USA. Especially I had no idea it's going to become a bestseller. But at that moment, my social media exploded and I felt there is something in it. And I started thinking about showing up more, sharing these stories until some of the biggest companies actually saw me, invited me. I started learning from them and started my own coaching business. So this book was a pivotal moment, but I believe all the experiences that I have lived before actually guided me to prepare this. And I don't believe it still saw the sunlight as it should. I believe, like an alchemist of Paulo Coelho, became very, like if I may say, popular 10 years after he published it. That Live From Your Heart and Mind will uh, get to more people and help more people. And I'm only very grateful for the opportunity to be a channel to be able to deliver these messages, which I call now a kindergarten self development. But uh, uh, I just lose my words when I need to speak about this because I feel like it is my baby, but I also feel it is not mine. Um, it is everyone's. And whoever get encountered with the LHM system, I only wish them to find their own path like I did.
Thank you so much. We will definitely put the link of the book in description below so that people can purchase the book. Thank you so much for writing this amazing book. Maybe it was a kindergarten book at that time, but 99% of people are at the kindergarten level. And I hope that many people will really read this book and change the perspective, what is even possible for them, and live from heart and mind. Thank you, Catherine, for being here on this podcast. Would you share where people can find more about you and how people can connect with you?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm always on LinkedIn. They actually call me LinkedIn Wonder Woman, which is kind of cool nickname, let's say that. And also you can find me on my websites, cathrinebroy.com and lhmacademia.com. So that would be the three best ways.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this amazing book. Thank you for sharing your inspiring messages with our audience and everybody else who is listening. Until next time, be brave, shine your light because the world does need this love and light inside of you more than ever. I'm sending you lots of love and big hug. Bye for now.